Okay, welcome everybody to today's class. Today we're doing a philosophy class, not an English class or a grammar class. I'm going back to the philosophy lessons that I started a long time ago. And the philosophy lessons that I did a long time ago, quite a few years ago now, were all based on ancient Greek philosophers. Today I'm going to move on to modern philosophers, but I want everybody to understand that Spinoza was heavily influenced by all of those ancient Greek philosophers that I've already done classes on. In particular, he was influenced by the Stoics and also by Epicurus, but many other ancient Greek sages Spinoza loved, certainly. So we're going to look at Spinoza, and I'm just going to look at chapter 1 of Spinoza's book, Ethics. It's got 5 chapters, this book. And so there will be 5 classes on Spinoza, or maybe just 3 or 4, we'll see. But the first chapter is really deals with his ontology, and I mean what Spinoza thought about the structure of existence. What exists, what doesn't exist, what the cosmos is made of, was it made, those kind of questions, where it came from, does it have a beginning, does it have an end? This will all deal with Spinoza's ontology, or his cosmology is another way of putting it, I suppose. In chapter 2, we see some of his epistemology, which is his theory of knowledge, true and false ideas, that kind of thing. And in chapter 3, we start to move on to his actual ethics, his ethical philosophy, how to lead a happy life, and why some people don't lead a happy life, why some people don't lead a good life. But today we're just dealing with cosmology and ontology, but I actually think this is perhaps the most interesting part of the ethics. There's a lot of philosophy of science in today's class, because when we deal with Spinoza's ontology, I hope you can see that these ideas are certainly still important nowadays. I think a lot of people believe that philosophy is unimportant, it doesn't matter, doesn't have any influence on human thought or human development. But I actually believe that precisely the opposite is the case. Philosophy has had a massive impact on human development, and I believe that, for example, if you're a fan of science, that science grew out of philosophy and religion. And I don't see philosophy and religion as the same thing either. But I hope I can show you today how Spinoza really changed our opinion of God and of the universe as well. So his first chapter is called Concerning God, and he's perhaps most famous for saying God or nature. He wrote this book in Latin, and that wasn't his native language. Spinoza was certainly a linguist as well as a scientist. He wrote this book in Latin, and he's famous for saying God or nature. Now, what he means here is that when he says God, some people would just say nature. And so something that he's famous for doing is he's famous for claiming that God is not transcendental. He's not another being that's different from his creation. He is his creation. So let's see what he means. So he talks a lot about substance, first of all. Substance is one of Spinoza's categories, and substance for Spinoza is everything that there is. Now, he claims that substance is indivisible. This means he is a monist and not a dualist. Now, you should always remember, it's very useful when you're reading Spinoza to consider that Spinoza was around at about the same time as Descartes. And he disagreed with Descartes on a number of points, even though he really respected the guy. He thought the guy was a brilliant man, for sure, and you can see that when you read the book. He says a lot of nice things about him. He certainly says he has an incredible intellect. Nonetheless, he disagrees with him. Now, Descartes was famous for, I think, therefore I am. And when he came up with this idea, he was trying to show how important thought is, and that thinking, cannot be reduced to material substances. Now, this is really important for anybody who's interested in artificial intelligence, for example, because if you believe that it is possible to create a machine that can think, then you believe in some kind of way that thinking is a physical process. Now, that's certainly not what Descartes believed, and it's certainly not what Spinoza believed either. For Descartes, thought was irreducible to material substance. It was irreducible. It couldn't be reduced to material substances in different relationships or moving in different ways. It was something entirely different. And he believed that that you couldn't reduce material substances to thought either. So in Descartes' world, there were two different things. In his ontology, in his universe, there were two different things. There was thinking stuff and extended stuff. In other words, material stuff. Okay? Now, we're going to look at that in the next lesson on Spinoza, because in chapter 2, Spinoza talks a lot about body and thought. And the world of body and extended stuff is very different from the world of thought. And one thing that Spinoza agreed with Descartes about was that what thought cannot cause anything in the material world, and the material world can't have any effect on thought. That there's no